for them getting him. All right, let's get to some of the transfer portal rumors, news, additions, stuff like that. So, first one, Arizona cornerback Tacario Davis. I apologize if I said that wrong. I probably did. He committed to Wisconsin or to Washington. He was the number one cornerback in the transfer portal. So he obviously had a relationship with Jedd Fisch previously when they were at Arizona, and now he's coming to be with Jedd Fisch once again. Don't know if he just couldn't transfer the first time because Jedd Fisch left so late or what was going on there, but he is coming to be with Jedd Fisch. That will definitely help shore up the secondary for Washington. Talked about their defensive line last episode, and I like how they're doing that. I think Washington's one of the more underrated transfer portal classes right now in the Big Ten. I think they're doing a good job. They're top 10 in 24/7. Not sure where they are on three. I didn't check that one earlier, but I know they're top 10 and 24/7, so that's huge for them. They did lose a lot of guys. For them hit the portal, but they're bringing in some high caliber players as well, which is good for them. And they have the quarterback. We'll get more to him here later on, but they also got the quarterback. Appalachian State wide receiver Kaedin Robinson is currently looking at Michigan. He just got off a visit to UCLA. I believe it was yesterday, and then he is going to a visit at USC. It was either today or tomorrow, or later this week. So he's supposed to be visiting there. So a Michigan, UCLA, USC battle for the App State wide receiver Kaedin Robinson, the quarterback of Kaedin Robinson, Joey Euler. He did already go to UCLA, so there could be a connection there with that one. We'll see. And there's a bunch of other teams involved in this too. Those aren't the only three teams. It's just those were the three Big Ten teams that I saw mentioned. So let's see. Yeah, Washington's doing well. Illinois is too. Illinois is getting what they need. You're not going to see Illinois at like the top of some of the rankings because Illinois has so much returning talent. There, Philip said it right there. Gabe Jacques, however you pronounce it, he is coming back. I think Sonny told me as many as 18 starters could be back on this team. So that's huge for them. Obviously, you get a 10-win season this year. You're bringing back 18 guys. Like, it could go really, really well for them next year. Now, you need to still accomplish that, right? Iowa brought back a ton of guys this year, and they went 8-4 or 8-5, I guess, with they lost in their bowl game. So you still need to accomplish that, but this is a really good start for Illinois, especially with their quarterback and everything else to do that. The benefit Illinois will have is it doesn't look like they're changing their entire offense in the offseason, so that will help them as well. Yeah, and Hudson Clement, the wide receiver from West Virginia, I saw that one as well. I don't know a ton about Hudson Clement. I didn't get a ton of time to research him, but as far as I'm concerned, I did read somebody say that he was a very nice addition, kind of a Pat Bryant-esque receiver. Don't know exactly what that means, but that's what I read. And like I said, I didn't do a whole bunch more research on it other than that. So if he's anything like Pat Bryant, that'll be really good for Illinois because Illinois really enjoyed the services of one Pat Bryant. All right, let's get to South Dakota edge Marquise Grace. He is currently looking at Kentucky, Cincinnati, Wisconsin, Georgia Tech, Mississippi State. Good news for Wisconsin. They're in on this one. Wisconsin does need some edge D-line help a little bit. A big name that a Big Ten team is in on is the Georgia quarterback, Jaden Rashada. So Jaden Rashada, if you remember his whole story, started off going to Florida, very highly rated recruit. I believe he was a 5-star, was either on 3 or 24/7. He started off very highly rated recruit, went to Florida. They didn't pay him the NIL money that he wanted, or I guess that they promised him. I don't know if it was what he wanted, but I guess he was promised NIL money, and then he didn't go there. Yeah, Dave reached the same 5-star. So he was 5-star one of those places. So very good quarterback in high school and a lot of projecting going forward. But he left Florida and went to Arizona State for a year, transferred from Arizona State to Georgia. This past year was there, and then I think he probably took a note out of Gunnar Stockton playing before him. Walk on Gunnar Stockton. I don't know what it is with Georgia and walk-on quarterbacks. You got a 5-star. I mean, they did kind of the same thing, not exactly, because I don't think he was a walk-on with Jake Fromm and Justin Fields. It was like, play the 5-star. Like, what are you doing? For whatever reason, Georgia quarterback development just not all that great, which kind of stinks because there's a kid named Ryan Montgomery from Ohio that's going to Georgia that I really hope does well. But I don't know if he's going to do too well with the way the quarterback development has been at Georgia. Jaden Rashada is looking at UCLA right now. He is an early team in contact with him. That's an early team in contact with him. Obviously, there will be more as well as he just recently entered with them losing the playoff game and stuff. But if UCLA can secure Jaden Rashada to come to UCLA, that would be huge, huge for them. Deshaun Foster, if he can get that to happen, that would be massive. And I would think that you get Jaden Rashada to go there, he's your starter right away, based off everything else that went with, and Georgia got the Branch brothers as well. David, you're exactly right. That was huge for them. But based on everything that's gone on with Jaden Rashada, I don't think he's going to pick a school unless unless he knows he's the starter, which, we'll talk about Joey Aguilar here soon with UCLA, but got some more names to run through here. Alabama offensive tackle Elijah Pritchett. Nebraska right now is the favorite to land him. I think there's been multiple predictions put in. And just so you guys know, I'm not giving you guys like a bunch of insider information here. Like, I hate when people act like they have insider info. A lot of the stuff I'm getting is from 24/7 and On3. There's a few people that I talk to from here and there, but they're mostly Ohio State people. So I know the Ohio State, people that I talk to are not super dialed in on Malik Benson from Florida State, who we'll get to here in a minute. But a lot of the stuff I'm getting to you guys is On3 and 24/7. So whether you read it already or maybe you just didn't get a chance to today, I'll give it to you and kind of give my thoughts. Yeah, like I said, Alabama offensive tackle Elijah Pritchett, Nebraska right now is the favorite to land him. There was a 24/7 guy that was saying that LSU is getting rather aggressive here, though. So Nebraska, which, by the way, Nebraska doing a good job in the portal, getting some good players who were highly rated recruits, maybe didn't have the best careers so far, but moving on to the Big Ten. I did a video a couple of days ago about how the SEC is getting weaker because a lot of their depth is leaving the SEC and heading over to the Big Ten, the Big 12 conferences like that. And Nebraska is kind of one of the biggest examples of that. I used Michigan as an example of getting Justice Haynes and some of those guys, but Nebraska could have been another easy example to use. So huge for Nebraska if they can land Elijah Pritchett as well. The Tulane running back, Mekhi Hughes, his brother is actually Neem Offord. If you're an Ohio State fan, you know that name. Highly rated recruit that is going to Oregon this next year. He just committed to Oregon today. So the star running back, I believe he's like a 90 or a 91 rating, something like that. So very high rating out of the transfer portal. He has committed to Oregon, should shore up some of their running back depth there, and will probably be getting quite a few carries, if not get the bulk of the carries next season. Florida State running back or wide receiver Malik Benson. Tennessee and Kansas State were in contact with him, but Oregon landed him. Now, I did read, I believe it was the guy on On3, whether it's Nakos or they have another guy that does, is it Wiltfong? Maybe. Sometimes I just read through these On3 articles. I don't always remember who wrote it, but they said that even though he committed to Oregon, apparently Tennessee and Kansas State are still trying. So, I mean, he's committed, so I don't think anything's going to change there, but we're starting to get into that situation now with the transfer portal where it's like committed, but they didn't sign yet. So I guess if you're an Oregon fan, I would just maybe keep an extra eye out there for the signing of Malik Benson post, because for whatever reason, there is kind of the flipping that can go on, which I know the Cole Cabana from Michigan did that to Minnesota. He flipped from there and it went to Western Michigan instead. I don't know the exact story that happened there, but that did happen. Yes, and Philip is right. Mark Gronowski, almost said Gronkowski, Gronowski to Iowa. If you guys remember, I did in fact remember, if you guys remember when Iowa played South Dakota State, that's where Mark Gronowski is from. Iowa played South Dakota State, 2022. The score of that game was 7-3. And you would have thought, oh, wow, Iowa got a touchdown. No, they did not. Iowa got 2 field goals and it was a field goal and 2 safeties in that game. That's how they got 7 points. And Iowa won that game because of a field goal and 2 safeties, which it's kind of crazy. And I was like, oh, wow, I remember South Dakota State for that. And then I was like, what year was that? And so I looked it up. Gronowski, that was his very first start at South Dakota State, was against Iowa during that game. So, what a full circle moment we've come to where Iowa uh, faced Gronowski and got two safeties on his offense and one with a field goal. And the defense held South Dakota State to only a field goal and was able to win that game. That is a game I will never forget watching. That was such a fun game. Gronowski's a good quarterback though. He's had a good career at South Dakota State. He had hopes of going to the NFL. Felt like he had some possibilities of being drafted. So you get a quarterback who is going from possibly being drafted and possibly going to the NFL this year to come to Iowa instead. It's a little bit of an interesting situation. I find it very interesting how much teams are going after FCS players this year, and not just for like depth and special teams, but to start. Like, in my opinion, after seeing everything that happened, like I really could see Mark Gronowski, not just see, I think he will be the starter at Iowa next year. So to go from FCS to, not just Power Four, but the Big Ten and be a starter in the conference, like that's huge. So obviously Tim Lester is doing some things there at Iowa, really getting his offense put into the system, really getting his offense involved. That's great. I think if you're an Iowa fan, that's what you love to see. He's getting his pick. Now I do wonder what's going to happen with Brendan Sullivan. I think Brendan Sullivan had a good opportunity to be the starter this last year or this coming year, but for whatever reason, they're probably not going to go with him, or it's going to be a competition. I think Mark Gronowski wins that competition, but you never know. Brendan Sullivan could make a huge jump this next year. I will say one more thing on Gronowski. The thing I like most about him is he improved his sack total every single year. His very first year, he was sacked 18 times. His second year, he was sacked 10 times. Third year, he was sacked only 8 times. And so I think for Iowa, that is a huge thing that they have to avoid. We'll see what the offensive line is like next year and how that goes, but it's a huge thing for them to avoid. So Mark Gronowski, fourth-year starter this year, if he's able to start at Iowa, would be huge for them. Love that. John says a buddy of mine told me IU should have went and got Gronowski. I don't know. I think I like Mendoza better. I like the experience of Mendoza better. I don't know who the better quarterback is, but I think I like the experience of being in the ACC and moving up from there to the Big Ten. I think I like that better. He also watches more FCS. Yeah, yeah. He might just really like the FCS, and but sometimes players can do it, sometimes players can't. We saw Max Brosmer do it. Max Brosmer did it. Went from New Hampshire to Minnesota, and that was great for them. Dave Greenshield, could you see Trey McNutt flipping from Oregon to OSU? No, I don't think. I think some massive things would need to change in Trey McNutt's life if that were going to happen, and I don't think that's happening. I'll leave it at that. Red Winds says Kirk and Paul knocked it out of the park with Bama being in the playoffs. Not sure. I understand the reference there. Red wine. I thought it said something else at first. I apologize if you were getting at something different there and go away. So, yeah. All right. Let's go back to the portal players. Kent says you're missing Carver Magic right now. I got it. This is the hard part about doing a show by myself. When I'm doing with Zach, when he's on, Red Wine says he was just kidding. Okay, I apologize. I didn't get the joke, Red Wine. Sometimes when you're on by yourself, it's really hard to read through the comments, like I said. Yeah, the Nebraska game right now. I got to go back and watch that one, Kent. Text me and let me know after the show is over what's going on. All right, let's get to some more players. Clemson wide receiver Troy Stellato. I love that last name, Stellato. Kentucky, West Virginia, and Michigan are all in on him. So Michigan getting involved with the wide receivers. They need to, losing Tyler Morris, which, by the way, they got Donovan McCauley. So kind of like a trade swap thing going on with Michigan and Indiana. I found that rather funny. Indiana got Tyler Morris, and Michigan got Donovan McCauley. That was interesting. So we'll see if Michigan can land the Clemson wide receiver. And the Ohio edge, Bradley Weaver, he's coming off of a trip to Wisconsin, and then Indiana, Rutgers, and Virginia are also in the mix here. Good player from Ohio, had a good season this past year. I have to believe that the connection with Curtis Rourke would help in this situation we see a lot of things that help teams in the transfer portal. Number one, if you got a player from that school previously, it does in fact help you to get more players from that school. Number one, because if that player knows the other players, they can oftentimes, be kind of like, hey, I like this place, and kind of give you the recommendation of like, yeah, you'll like it here as well. And then, and then the other aspect of it there, which is like, if maybe you kind of create a pipeline, right? Like, I mean, obviously the coaches at the programs won't want that to happen, but you can kind of keep bringing players in from there. That's exactly what happened with Quinshawn Judkins and Davison Igbinosun at Ohio State. Davison Igbinosun and Quinshawn Judkins were good friends. Davison Igbinosun for they were there for a year, both as freshmen. Quinshawn Judkins enters the transfer portal. Davison Igbinosun says, "Hey, you'll love it here at Ohio State. They need you." Yada yada yada. Boom shaka boom. It turns into Quinshawn Judkins going to Ohio State. And then the other thing that helps as well is if you play a team and that player was on the team when you played them. Normally, it's the year before they transfer, but I mean, you guys look how many of these players will sometimes transfer to a school and they played them this past year. It happens more often than you would think. And I think honestly what happens is I think a lot of these like coaches will realize like, oh man, this guy's really good. He could be a really good piece for us. And so they not only see the player and think he's good, but they also kind of like, treat him really nice after the game. Maybe it's on the field, or maybe they go to the locker room, or maybe they meet him after the game or something like that. And they're like, hey man, really good game. And then that makes the connection even easier later on if they decide to go in the transfer portal. So it happens. It's an interesting thing. Justice Finley from Texas, the edge. He was at West Virginia today. He previously visited Minnesota and Mississippi State, so we'll see if the possibility is there for him to go to Minnesota. And then other teams that are in the mix include Nebraska, Georgia Tech, Arizona, and Pitt. They've all been involved with Finley. So Nebraska, Minnesota involved in the Texas edge. Justice Finley should be interesting there. And then two of the last three guys are Ohio State guys. Damon Wolfson, the Georgia edge. He got immediate attention from many schools, but this looks like a situation where maybe the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Ohio State, was showing him some interest possibly before he got into the portal. I don't really complain about that stuff because it is what it is nowadays, which obviously, in this situation, Ohio State's the beneficiary, but it is what it is. Almost every single player who goes into the portal is getting tampered with in some way, shape, or form. Does that mean they know exactly where they're going? No. Every single time, right when they enter in? No. But typically there's some kind of a transfer portal tampering going on almost every single time. John says, where is Zach? Zach had a work trip today, and he's at a hotel, and he said that he wasn't confident he would have good enough internet, and he wasn't able to like pack his microphone and everything like that. So Zach decided to sit this one out, and I've had guests before, but I just thought I'm going to try it one time by myself. We'll see how it goes. I don't plan on making this a common thing. I want Zach on as often as I can, but yeah, that's where we're at today. And then John also says Indiana finally got some offensive linemen in the portal. They also picked up a starting QB, running back, and a couple CBs. What I don't know is how Indiana portal stacks up against the others. I don't, we could talk about the rankings and stuff like that. It's almost impossible to rank the transfer portal because every team is looking for something different. Unless you have like an insider itself. Said Zach should join us in the chat if nothing else. I don't know what he's doing right now. I don't know if he's out to dinner or something like that. It was a late meeting thing. I don't know if he's got to be up early in the morning or something. So if he's already in bed, but yeah, I would have texted him if I was a better thinker beforehand. But yeah, my thing with the rankings is like everybody's trying to do something different in the portal. Like you look at Illinois. Illinois is bringing back so many players. They don't really need to go into the portal and get some of these high caliber players. But Indiana has had to go to the portal and get a quarterback and a running back. And typically those players are, rated higher, maybe not running back as much, but rated higher. So your transfer portal class is going to look better when you do that. So I just try to look at it from an individual basis and say, did they get who they needed? Right now, I feel like Indiana's got what they needed. They did a good job getting offensive linemen and safeties. I feel like is somewhere they can improve. Um, John saying Taven Jackson going to UCF. Yeah, I saw that. I thought UCLA possibly with the quarterback opening with Justin Martin going, and what's his name? The quarterback coach going out there to be the offensive coordinator. But yep, didn't work out. Didn't work out. Erica Goldberg is Indiana's quarterback from the season out of eligibility. Yes, he will be in the NFL draft. Curtis Rourke will be in the NFL draft, for sure. All right, couple more. Sam Phillips, Chattanooga, wide receiver, FCS player, visited Iowa last week. There's a lot of players that are in the mix for him. So, Sinceri, that's right. Thank you, Joe. Tino Sinceri. So Sam Phillips, he is probably going to get a lot of attention from Iowa. He went on a visit there. I would think you would have committed already if you were going to go to Iowa, but the changing factor is Gronowski. So they have a quarterback that they picked up from the FCS, and that is a pretty good signing for them. So who knows? Maybe Mark Gronowski changes some things, but like I said, there's some other visits and stuff like that coming up for Sam Phillips as well. So there doesn't appear to be any favorite. I probably wouldn't make Iowa the favorite, but they're at least involved in this one. So we'll see what happens. And then finally, Connor Moore from Montana State, offensive lineman. Montana State just got eliminated, I believe, from the FCS playoffs, and so their players are starting to hop into the portal. And offensive lineman Connor Moore heading into the portal. He's gonna probably go to Ohio State. Feel like there was probably a little bit more of the, wink, wink, nudge, nudge going on with that one. So, Ohio State, they know how to tamper, and they are doing it. So it's what it is. Like I said, guys, at this point, everybody's doing it. And if you're not doing it, you're at a disadvantage. So I don't like it. I don't want it to happen. But if I'm being honest, like it happens. So Erica says Gronowski helped lead San Diego State to FCS championships and also won the FCS equivalent to the Heisman, if my memory is correct. I do believe I read the Heisman part as well. I forgot to mention the championships earlier. So, Erica, I appreciate you putting that in there. I think he's huge. Yeah, I mentioned him earlier. I think he's huge for Iowa. Like I said, the experience, being there for a year. Hopefully, Brendan Sullivan will stick around after that. But yeah, so JR, I don't understand what you don't like. I don't know. What did I say I don't like? I think I said I like Indiana's class. If that's what you're talking about, John. Yeah, like I said, just need safeties. Just need safeties for the Indiana class, and Kirk Zene is going to be on that, and I'm sure he'll get that. So, um, you were just talking about it. I'm at a loss, John. Doing the show by myself, you're going to be a little bit more specific. I apologize. All right, guys, that is the transfer portal rumors and Big Ten additions, stuff like that. Update any other additions that you guys want to mention. I will be glad to give my thoughts on if I've done much thought into them. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. PK says IU needs an edge. They could use an edge for sure. Mikel Kamara coming back definitely helps with that one. So. But yeah, they could use an edge. I don't think it's as dire as a need of safety. I think safety is the biggest need right now for India. That's just me though. So